Well, we now got 2 games in the books for Week 17, and here's where we stand in the AFC. The Chiefs, Bills, and Texans have all clinched their divisions. The Ravens have a chance to clinch the AFC North with a win against the Browns in Week 18. Pittsburgh, still fighting for the North, have clinched a playoff berth for the 2nd straight year. Back here with CBS Sports NFL analyst Charles Davis and in studio with Emory Hunt. And fellas, with the Steelers falling to the Chiefs and Ravens getting that big win over the Texans, Baltimore now in the driver's seat to win the AFC North. But guys, it was just a few weeks ago. It was a completely different story. Charles, how did we go from the Steelers, we're going to run away with the division, maybe about 4 weeks ago, to now it's the Ravens that are knocking at the door of back-to-back division titles?
Yeah, we ran into the Steelers running into a very tough portion of their schedule. We also ran into the Steelers becoming somewhat stagnant on the offensive side of the ball, not able to score the points they needed. And they've already twice this year won ball games with 6 field goals and no other points. That doesn't happen. It shouldn't happen once, let alone twice. And they're having trouble scoring points right now. So that's been a real difficult thing for them. Baltimore on the flip side, the offense has kind of been there the entire time. The defense has come along in recent weeks. And because of that, that's put Baltimore in the driver's seat as we continue down the stretch. It's going to be fun to watch what happens because Pittsburgh, for all the great things that have happened this year, Emory, if they go through another year without winning at least one playoff game, wow. 2016, the last time they won a playoff game, which is shocking considering the success they've had even since then.
Especially when you also build in how the last time we saw Pittsburgh play a playoff game at home, they were getting drubbed by the Cleveland Browns. So that is not sitting well. You know, in 2020, during the COVID year, Ben Roethlisberger's last stands. And here's the thing. When you look at Pittsburgh, when you're playing the better teams, your weaknesses or flaws get kind of put under the microscope and get highlighted a little bit more so. And on the flip side, when we've seen Baltimore playing these tough games, that's when they tend to play the best. Now, if Baltimore went out there and played Pittsburgh State, they lose. But because they go out there and play their best against the tougher opponents, Pittsburgh, against these tougher opponents, we started to notice that their passing game isn't as dynamic as it may look on paper. And there are some limitations within their run game. And now that they're starting to get a little bit banged up a bit on defense, that also brings some reason to why we're seeing what we're seeing now from the Steelers.
Okay, so
did you say Pittsburgh State?
Did you
just put that ugly on the Gorillas of Pittsburgh State? Did you put that evil on them, Emory?
I knew Charles gonna always pick up what I'm putting down. He wasn't gonna let that slide.
So where we currently stand, the Steelers would own the 5 seed and would likely see the Texans in the wild card round. We saw Houston come out extremely flat against Baltimore, albeit they did lose a few big pieces on both sides of the ball over the last week. But guys, you were just talking about Pittsburgh winning with field goals and struggling to score points. But Emory, what's your confidence level looking at both of these teams following Christmas's results?
I feel a little bit more confident in Pittsburgh because I can trust the formula that they mix in to have success, right? Run game, defense. We know their kicker is excellent. We've seen that on display. Charles touched on it perfectly, how they won 2 games with him alone. But I just don't like the vibes I'm seeing from Houston. And we've seen this in games that they've won and more so in games that they've lost. They just don't look like the same team. I honestly believe we're looking at a Houston Texans team this year that should have had this season last year with a rookie quarterback. But now in his 2nd season, we're seeing them go through the ups and downs of looking like playing with a young rookie quarterback when that should have been last year when they were high flying. So I have no confidence in the Texans in the postseason based off how they look out there on defense, how they look offensively speaking. If they can't get Joe Mixon going, then there's going to be a problem. And in the playoffs, it's all tough teams and teams that can really get off the field on 3rd down.
Yeah, and Emory, I believe in Mike Tomlin and what he can do with this team. He understands what he has. He understands the stretch that they've been in now. And let's say that things hold right now, and Pittsburgh's 5 and Houston's 4, and Pittsburgh has to go to Houston for the first round of the playoffs. They played last year in the regular season, and you use the term beat the brakes off of someone. Houston beat the brakes off of Pittsburgh in that game. I mean, they jumped them pretty hard, and that helped propel them towards the season that they had. And I love your point about the struggles, and maybe Houston arrived a year ahead of time. And now it's gone in reverse where the struggles are happening now. It'll be a very good offseason for Houston whenever that comes. about how they're going to go about things and getting ready for C.J. Stroud for next year, because now he understands how a league comes at you after you've shown what you have the first time through. Use the baseball analogy. The first time through the league, that guy hits 450. Then they studied him and realized, oh, let me try this pitch. All of a sudden, he's hitting 250, and he has to adjust. C.J. Stroud will adjust. D'Amico Ryans will adjust. I just don't know if it's this season. And I would like Pittsburgh. I'd have more confidence in Pittsburgh in that ball game, even if the game's in Houston.
You guys saying that the injuries not necessarily enough to kind of define what they're going through. We're seeing a little bit more of holes in what Houston's going through right now overall. But guys, if there's one thing that's certain, that's Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid have locked down the 1 seed for the 3rd time together after Wednesday's win over Pittsburgh. But the last 2 weeks, there's been plenty of questions on whether Mahomes should have or should not have played while dealing with that ankle sprain. Now, Emory, if you are Andy Reid and you have the chance to kick Denver out of the playoffs, how do you handle Mahomes going into Week 18, playing against a division rival when, hey, you got that 1 seed already?
Listen, we had this discussion in the green room, Kiana, when we were watching this game. We were talking back and forth about this. And again, the saying is a lion doesn't concern himself with the opinions of sheep. Not saying that the Broncos are sheep. I'm just saying that if you are Andy Reid and you are known as a great situational football coach, and everyone looks at the Chiefs and says, man, they always do the right things at the right time. That's not by happenstance. You have to really practice that. That's like trying to say, I'm going to wake up and be physical this morning. No, that starts early in the offseason. You can't just turn on physicality. You can't just turn on situational football. In order to stay sharp with that blade, you got to continue to sharpen it and work at it. So I would play Patrick Mahomes. Now, I wouldn't play him the whole game, but I will play him enough to where they can continue to keep things rolling. Because think about it. They have this early game on a Wednesday. They won't see another game until January 5th, and then they won't see another game until 2 weeks after that. So that's a lot of time, even though these are the Chiefs, but you want to continue to have that working knowledge of what we're doing, and especially if you're breaking in some new receivers that are coming back healthy now at this part of the season. So play him for a half. Throw Carson Wentz out there, let him get some reps because you may need him at some point. But, hey, that's why Andy Reid is who Andy Reid is.
Touche.
Yeah, and Emory, as you know, he's not the only person that you're concerned about in staying sharp. Hollywood Brown just got back in the lineup today. He could probably use some reps, some live game reps, even though you worry about him getting hurt. But let's face it, you worry about everyone getting hurt. I think you're right on track based off of what we've seen from Andy Reid over the years. They've had that 3 games in 11 days gauntlet that they just finished. They'll get the rest until the next game, play for a while. They'll come out. They're not concerned about whether they keep Denver out. They're more concerned about, are we continuing to advance on offense? Because remember, whoever plays Week 18, I think is going to be their lineup in the playoffs, meaning is Joe Thuney still going to be the left tackle instead of playing at guard? If so, he needs the reps out there. You've got to get Jawan Taylor some reps and get him to quit holding people and getting you penalties. They've got to keep working towards all those things. And last but not least, to stay sharp, Pat Riley, when he was with the Lakers, 1 year they had the #1. They won their early playoff round and had like 10 days before their next game. He knew they would get stale. He had full court scrimmages, took them away. They scrimmaged like they were playing regular season games to keep them sharp. He took a calculated gamble. They won the NBA title that year. I think Andy Reid's more in that camp than anywhere else. And by the way, those sheep you're talking about, Emory, we have met those sheep. And those sheep are us.
Well, fellas, if I've learned anything over these last 2 games when looking at Andy Reid, and we know that they had the opportunity to sit Patrick Mahomes when he was dealing with that ankle injury and decided not to. It looks like Andy Reid and co wants to make sure that he does stay sharp, and I'd probably be willing to guarantee that we will see Mahomes in Week 18. Emory and Charles, as always, I appreciate you guys stopping by, and happy holidays. Here's a look at what's coming up on Sunday on CBS. In the 1 p.m. slate, Josh Allen and the Bills hosting Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. Elsewhere, the Buccaneers face Bryce Young and the Panthers. Then in the 4 p.m. window, Tua and the Dolphins visiting the Browns. You can also stream the action over on Paramount Plus or watch it on CBS.